Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining the stream. If you guys are new here, just let us know what stocks you're watching, and Tom and I will cover them. But thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome, Hunter. Welcome, Corbin. Welcome, Amit. Thank you guys so much for joining. Like I said, let us know what stocks you're watching. Tom, we had the SPY pulling back a little bit in pre-market, but it's starting to pop back up just a little bit. It has a little bit of resistance right around $416. And then its next support is right around 415. What are you thinking headed into today?
Yeah, it kind of looks a little bit bearish today. I thought it was going to almost pop back up with how we saw T and some of these other stocks going up. But overall, the SPY was kind of pulling back today, like you said. I think that if we break this 100 SMA at open, we might be pretty good here. But over the next few minutes, we're going to have to see what happens. But man, there's that really good support down there around 414. And I feel like if we break that, it's just going to be a pretty bad morning for us, I think.
Gotcha. So welcome, Bill. Welcome, Kevin. Thank you guys so much for joining. We have Apple pulling back a little bit right before open, Tom. So it looks like tech might struggle a little bit this week. I know we had an amazing day on Friday, especially from a lot of growth stocks. We had the QQQ pulling back a little bit compared to the SPY, but I think we're in for an interesting week. The market just opened, and we have Patel saying watching UWMC. So let's check it out. UWMC. Oh, wow. It's popping up a lot.
Yeah, this is an amazing looking stock this morning, up at $8.12. I don't know what these guys do, but man, it looks like an amazing pop this morning. There's a lot of momentum. Looks like it's even running right now, hitting 813. So definitely watch this one. Looks very interesting. And if we go look at that 1 year daily, that chart does not look the best, but at least it's had some momentum. It was pretty flat over here in the past, had a very nice few months, and then just came crashing down. So overall, I'm just more neutral on the stock, but it has a lot of momentum this morning, and it could make a pretty good day trade if it ends up going up pretty well.
Sounds great, Tom. You got to check out T right now. It had that merger deal. Look at this thing. It is popping. It's up around basically 5%. And this is a huge, huge, huge day for a stock like T. Keep in mind, this is a value stock that barely moves, and it is up around 5% in the market just opened.
Yeah, and I think T pays like a 7 or 8% dividend nowadays too, and that's insane. It's just all the way up like at 33.80, 33.60 right now. This is actually insane movement, and like you said, we saw a huge pre-market move on that merger deal with Warner Media and Discovery, and this is all the way up to around $34 in pre-market. Just an amazing resistance up there, and we almost hit that. It looks like we are starting to come back down as of right now on the 1 minute chart, but it looks pretty good. I would say if it starts going down, watch for a bottom support around $33 or 33.20.
Alrighty, so yeah, that's pretty crazy. Even if we look at their daily chart, like they barely move, but they're really starting to pop back up. Honestly, I think I'm not talking about today, but I think over like the next couple weeks or the next couple months, I can definitely see a pop back up with T. The setup looks very similar to one of the Bank of America trades we took like in November of last year. It like broke like a long-term resistance and it just rallied for a couple months. And I wouldn't doubt if we see the same thing with T.
I would not either. And T's just in one of the, like you said, one of those amazing value stocks. And they do usually move pretty well off those supports. And I really like the bottom one around like $26, $27. There was also a pretty good support around $30 as well. And it really broke like that $32 level, like you were talking about. And that's just an amazing thing to see. I really like how T's moving, and it's one of those good dividend stocks where a lot of people have also been grabbing shares of this down low too. So for the longer run, it's always been a pretty decent stock to grab at the lows, especially with the dividend going on with it. So honestly, it's been a pretty good value stock, and it's decent. It's pretty good to see it kind of popping up over the past few months while the market's been kind of flat at these highs around 420 on the SPY.
Alrighty, so welcome B, welcome Click, welcome Blackstar, Apple. Yeah, Tom, we have Apple falling off a cliff basically at open. Yeah, it just went straight down, and it's coming very close to its support right around 126. So be on the lookout for that. But then we have Blackstar saying AMC. So let's check out AMC. It is popping up, Tom. It actually broke that resistance right around 1370, and we're heading towards that other resistance right around 1434. We both know how this one goes. Like when it runs, it really runs, and it still has potential for a short squeeze. Has a lot of hype coming from the weekend. Huge volume candle at open. I think we're going to see a lot of movement out of this one today.
Yeah, we've been talking about this one quite a bit, and it had an amazing Friday. Can't believe it kind of fell back down the way it did on Friday in the middle of the day, all the way back down to like 1266. It's awesome to see this continuing the momentum this week back to the upside. And lots of people have been talking about the short squeeze with this one and everything. And honestly, on the daily chart, it looks pretty decent, especially like I said, if we can keep running today. I think that if we can break above like 1460 or 1455, it would be an amazing move. But we'll just have to see what happens today. If it breaks the high of Friday at 1434, that one could also be a pretty good indicator.
Sounds great. So welcome Simon and Justin. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. Tom, what do you think of VIAC on the daily chart? So I know that they had that like huge fallout with Archegos Capital a couple months ago, and they've been beaten down ever since. They've been stuck right around like $40, but to me it looks like they're in like a nice spot for a pop back up, maybe to like $50 or so. I know that would be like a pretty big move, but looking at their chart and looking at the way they've been holding this support, I think it looks like a decent play.
Yeah, that really is honestly a pretty good support. And like you said, they got beat down so hard that, for example, like they're gonna obviously be taking some positions in other things, hoping that they can obviously make that capital back. And with a company like this, you would think that they would kind of help. Like they would go up over the next like year to 2 years, especially like I think they could go a lot higher than $50 over the next couple of years, but it just depends on how well that they do with their positions and stuff like that. And I think that if we see a pretty good pop out of like, or if we see a pretty good pullback with the market, or if we see like GameStop come back down or something, then I think a company like this will do amazing. But overall, I think $50 is not a very I don't think that's a pretty like far out there target. I feel like 50 could be pretty attainable over the next couple of weeks to couple of months, especially like you said, with this double bottom. And that's the main thing I'm looking at here is the double bottom. And then also their earnings, like their earnings per share still aren't that bad. So honestly, it's still not that bad of a play, I don't think.
All right, and then we have B saying, "What do you guys feel on X?" So, Tom, I know you're a pretty big fan of this stock, or at least you were a couple months ago. Like, what are your thoughts on it? It had a crazy pop back up over like the past year. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it has been up, and I think that it's almost up so much that I feel like it could come back down. Now, this is a steel company, so keep in mind that with the price of steel going up, it's going to help them. Steel and lumber have really been exploding over the past few months, almost getting into like bubble territory, where especially with lumber. Like, let's go look at slash LBS really quick. But yeah, you can see how high like lumber is up. I don't know the ticker for steel futures if there even is, but this is a pretty like insane thing to see out of this stock. And I just have a bad feeling that like with the price of steel, it's just going to be a thing where the steel might start coming down, but it looks like this stock is going to do decent. Hopefully X can keep going up. And I know that like the infrastructure bill and some of these plans starting to come out might help X. And I think that might be part of the reason why they've been popping over the past couple months with Biden announcing that bill. But I think that it's just going to be a pretty good thing for the longer term, but for the shorter term, I have a feeling it could pull back, but it is holding this $25 level very well, and it might pop up over the next few days if we hold that.
All right, welcome Vicky and I'm Fierce to the stream. We have Vicky saying good morning, pins please. So let's check it out. And good morning, Vicky, PINS. It's down around like 0.7% today, but honestly, it looks like we're going to see a pop back up. It's holding that support right around $55 very well. Their daily chart looks pretty decent. Intraday, they're looking okay. To me, it looks like a dip buy. You know what I mean? I think we could see a pop back up, maybe like 60 or like $62. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I really agree. I think 60 is a very good level. It looks like that's been a pretty good resistance in the past. So definitely watch out for that. And it looks like a pretty good play, like you said. Overall, lots of these stocks like Pinterest, Peloton, and others have really been dipping over the past few weeks. And I think that they're all at pretty good levels to start grabbing some shares at. The only problem is obviously that the options you'd have to time it correctly with pins unless you've got some pretty good leaps on it or something. But I think over the next couple of weeks we might see a little pop, like you said, especially with how much selling that we've been seeing out of some of these stocks. Like Pinterest has pretty much went straight down ever since it touched like $89, just straight down all the way down to like 54. So some of these moves have honestly been pretty insane. So really like watch out for at least a little bit of a pop back up on some of these stocks.
All right, and then let's check out Palantir. I know that a lot of people like this one. It's up around 1% today. intraday, it's looking pretty good actually. It had an amazing green candle right at open, and it's kind of struggling right around that area. There's a pretty strong resistance right around like $20.20, you can say. So it actually was just at intraday highs, but it's pulling back a little bit right now. And Palantir is also one of those stocks where when it starts to run intraday, like normally we see a pretty nice continuation play. But I know like with all the like negative sentiment with these growth stocks right now, it might be a little hard to do that. But overall, I like them for the long term, and intraday I think they look decent as well.
Yeah, me too. And I think that it really looks good on the daily also. I mean, just overall the setup on Palantir looks pretty decent. And they had those great earnings a few days ago, like where they popped up. That was an amazing thing to see. I'm going to go a little bit further back on this 1 hour chart here to see, but you can really see how they popped up on those earnings, which showed the stock was still pretty strong. And I think that that drove a lot of buyers back in, especially people who might have been on the fence about hopping into some of these stocks. A lot of these stocks have been going down. So people have been pretty scared thinking that they might keep going down. And it's always hard to buy whenever they're at lows. But I think it was Warren Buffett that says, you have to be fearful when other people are greedy and greedy when other people are fearful. And I think that this really showed that the company was still pretty strong. And I think it really just made a lot of people buy who were kind of on the fence about buying some of these companies at their lows because those earnings were very strong.
All right, and then let's see, we have Corbin saying, I'm checking out DraftKings. My call expires Friday. So DraftKings had an amazing, amazing day on Friday, this past Friday. It was up like 9 or 10% or something crazy like that. So today it's down around 3%, which I guess you can kind of see that pullback. I think they look great for like a couple week to a couple month swing. Overall, I love the setup for that. I'm not sure what strike price your call is or like what price you paid. So that'll obviously have a huge influence on this type of trade. Like if it's like in the money, if it's like the 40 strike call, then I think you should be good depending on what price you paid. But if it's like the 50 strike call or something that's pretty far out of the money, it might be a little risky.
Yeah, I agree. I think it might be pretty risky, but hopefully, like you said, he got a pretty decent call. And I think that this might be bouncing off support like all the other ones. We're really seeing DraftKings hit off $40. And I think over the next couple weeks or couple months, it might be a pretty good play. And I really kind of like this stock, especially down here at these lows. Sports gambling is a pretty big industry nowadays. And it's just one of those things that's growing as well. And every year there's more and more states that like legalize sports gambling. So there's a whole bunch of opportunities for DraftKings and some of these other stocks. But honestly, I think he's pretty good, especially if he has a pretty good expiration on it. My big concern here is just intraday. Like you said, it is pulling back very, very slightly, but it was up Friday quite a bit. So don't be surprised with a little bit of a pullback. But I think that like later on this week to over the next couple weeks, we will see it maybe hold this $40 support and it might go back up.
All right, and then we have Simon saying PHM in cat, and then Airbnb. So PHM, let's take a look at it. It is down a little bit today. It has support right around $56, and then resistance right around like 59 or so. I think it looks okay. I'm not like a huge fan of it either way. Of course, always trust your gut. But yeah, I'm just watching it, watching those two levels.
Yeah, I think that that's a good thing to do. Just watch those. It almost looks bearish to me on the daily chart here. It looks like it might be coming to the downside. It hit almost off of $60 there. And overall, I just think it looks pretty bearish, at least intraday and over the next couple days. But we'll just have to see what happens.
All right, and then let's see, CAT. That one is doing good today. It's up around 0.4%. It's very close to its all-time high. And this is a great company. One thing I'm a little worried about is a potential rotation out of value stocks and into growth stocks. There are a lot of growth stocks that are at amazing levels right now. And I really wouldn't be surprised if we start to see just like an overall sector rotation out of these value stocks because a lot of them, like CAT, are very close to all-time highs. And then you have a company like Zoom or DraftKings or even Tesla that is significantly off its all-time highs. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of like eyeing out for a potential rotation from that. So it makes me a little bit scared with CAT.
I agree. I think that we might see a pullback out of some of those bigger stocks that have been going up. And, like we talked about, there's almost like a bubble going on with some of these commodities like lumber and steel. So really watch out, because Caterpillar is definitely going to be benefiting from that. And also they're going to be benefiting also from that infrastructure bill, like we talked about. I think that over the next few years, Cat might start to pull back, and we'll just have to, or not few years, few months, I should say. Over the next few years, they might keep going up. Who knows? But I think over the next few months, we might see them go down. They are almost double topping here around 245. So we'll just have to see what goes on over the next couple days. But honestly, 245 is posing as a pretty strong resistance. And intraday on the 1 minute chart, man, they really hit 245 and are now really tanking off.
All right, and then the last one, Airbnb. It's getting pretty close to its lows, right around 130, you can say. It's not really moving, to be honest. Like, I think it's in a decent spot for a dip buy. I mean, I don't love the setup. I think it's okay overall. I would just be more neutral on it than anything.
Yeah, me too. It hasn't had too much, too much time on the market. We see some of these other stocks that have had a little bit more time on the market. This one hasn't had too much. It kind of IPO'd right around the beginning of December. So we'll just have to see how this one moves. It has a lower support around 121.50, or I should say around an all-time low. So just watch out for that.
All right, and then Tom, what do you think of Coin? I was looking at this one this morning. It's down pretty big. It's down around
Ooh.
6%. I was looking to sell some puts on it. It's actually at all-time lows. And what's crazy to me is, this thing DPO'd and it ran all the way up to basically $430, and now it's at 240. So it looks like a pretty decent discount. I know that it got so hyped up on its IPO or DPO, I should say. So I think it can definitely fall more. And no one can catch the bottom. So that's why I'm kind of just like eyeing some short puts.
Yeah, whenever it moved off that $250 support, I kind of felt like we missed the bottom here on coin, but looks like we're getting another great opportunity. And like you said, these premiums are going to be just exploding over the next couple weeks. So really watch out. I think this is going to be a really good, honestly, seriously, this is going to be a great opportunity, I think, over the next like few months to see what happens with this. Even shares or puts, like you said, cash secure puts. I think it's going to be a pretty good way to go over the next few weeks on this stock. And I really like it. It's Coinbase. Obviously, like if we see some of these cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and others going down, then Coinbase might go down in the shorter term. But I think for the longer run, Coinbase is going to be great. They might have been a little overhyped on their IPO, so just be a little bit careful with that. Obviously, they're pulling back right now. They are breaking below the 250 support, which I thought that they might hold. But overall, like Doge and Bitcoin, like aren't doing the best either. People kind of expected those to keep popping up, but they're kind of just a little bit stagnant here over the last few weeks, and we can really see Bitcoin almost falling off here. It's all the way down to 44,000 right now. It was at 59,000 just like 6 days ago. So really a lot of bearish movement out of this. So I'm almost not surprised to see coin down with this type of movement out of Bitcoin. But I think as Bitcoin and others start to recover after they come down a little bit, then coin will do better over the next couple of years.
Alrighty, and then we have James saying, good morning, guys. What do you think about AMC? So let's check it out. I know we were talking about it a couple minutes ago. It is currently up around 6.5%. It's getting close to those highs, Tom, and I know we were talking about this off camera on Friday it was, or Saturday or something. The setup right now looks pretty similar to the setup back in like early January, and then even like early January, like right around January, what was that, January 19th, and then January like 25th. So overall, it looks good. I like the sentiment with it right now. But there is a very, very strong resistance right around $14.34. I think if it breaks that, it should be pretty solid because it doesn't have like a major resistance level until like 15, and then what is that, like 17 or something crazy like that. So really the main thing I'm watching for is that resistance break right at $14.34.
Me too. I mean, that's going to be an amazing level. And if this stock breaks that, it's going to really run, I think. And honestly, the setup here looks pretty bullish. I mean, it looks pretty nice, especially compared to the past. Intraday, there's a little double top here around like 1420. So watch out for that. But it looks like it might be popping up here with some more green candles. And I think the movement's going to be pretty significant once it does break that high that you said.
All right, and then we have Matt saying Apple most likely to fall or take off. So let's check it out. AAPL. Well, Yeah, I mean, it kind of dipped right at open. It bounced off that support right around 126. So, what do you think about this one, Tom?
It looks pretty hard to say intraday. It had a pretty big pullback. Looks like it's starting to try to pop back up right now. Looks like a pretty good double bottom around like 126. So you got to be pretty careful with this. Like if you're day trading this, honestly, I would still say I'm a little bit bearish on it. Looks like it fell right below the 1,000 SMA. Looks like it's just trying to have a little pop back up. You know, it is Apple. So if it falls a pointed open like this, keep in mind that it usually has some little consolidation or pops back up like we're seeing. But I think over the next few minutes, with this bearish momentum that we're seeing, we might see it keep going down. And it almost looks like a little dead cat bounce to me, at least on an intraday standpoint. And we are seeing some red going to the downside right now. So this might be the little break that we need to, go back down to the downside. But overall, it's hard to short Apple. So I'm not saying to do that. But I would just say personally, the intraday chart off of technicals and stuff looks pretty bearish, especially if we can pass back below 126.
All right, so we have M asking about NIO and Tesla, and the reason I bring this question up is because I think intraday Neo and Tesla have a lot more potential than Apple right now, because Apple, it kind of just fell and like kind of tanked off right at open, and it's trying to bounce, but there's not a ton of momentum right now. But with Neo, like they're breaking their intraday high right now. Tesla's having a pretty big bounce. I know that they were down on the day, but they're rallying pretty hard. So personally, I see more potential out of Neo and Tesla for today compared to Apple. And thank you, M, for bringing these two stocks up. But with the next question, we have, let's see. With the next question, we have Jason saying, should I sell a Norwegian cruise line, Marvel, or Neo put today? So if you'd like to own any of those stocks, go for it. NIO is popping up right now, and NIO, relatively to the collateral needed, has some extremely, very, very good premiums, you can say. Yeah, their premiums are great compared to their collateral needed. The IV is right around 75%. So I really like NEO, especially at these levels too. But always trust your gut. And then we have Vicky saying, Fubo, please. So I was looking at this one, and Fubo was actually popping up today around 3%. It has resistance right around 22, and then support right around 21. I think overall it looks pretty good. Overall, it just has to hold that support right around 21.
Another good growth stock popping up. I mean, Fubo's been one of those stocks everyone's been watching. We've got tons of questions about this one over the past few months, and on the 1-year daily chart, it has not looked good at all. Over the past couple of weeks, really flying down. They had earnings kind of like Palantir did and started popping back up. So honestly, I think at these levels, it's going to be a pretty decent time to grab shares, or I'm not going to say cash secured puts because we're up today, but if we do see like a red day or 2 red days and cash secured puts, might be a good way to go. But shares are looking pretty decent right now on Fubo. And I think that with sports streaming and stuff, it's going to be a pretty decent stock. And I think intraday, though, like you said, Mike, there's a really good resistance at $22 and then a good support at 21. And it looks like we're right at that 21 level. So hopefully we can kind of hold here and then break back up above 22.
All right, so we have Riot and Mara tanking off right now. Riot is down around 12%. Mara is down around 9%. Not looking too good, Tom. I know that there's some negative sentiment with Bitcoin right now. Yeah, it's really not looking too good. These stocks have pulled back so much from their highs. You look at Riot, it went from basically $80 to down to 20. So that's just a crazy pullback. It's not looking bad for like cash secured puts. It's definitely not my favorite setup. I like coin better, but I don't know. It's just looking okay. It's definitely not my favorite setup, but talk about a giant pullback.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel kind of bad because Mara and Riot specifically have really got killed. Like Bitcoin's not down too much, really, relative to the highs. Like the high was around 60,000. Now they're at 44,000. But, this stock from its high, around $80, like let's go check out, here the percentage on the way down. But from $80 all the way down to where we are now, looks like we're sitting right around somewhere like a negative 70% drop. So just a crazy thing on like Riot and Mara. Don't know what to think about these stocks with Bitcoin and stuff like that. I feel like if Bitcoin keeps pulling back, Mara and Riot are just going to get destroyed. But I think at the same time, it's a good time to start averaging into shares. I definitely would not go all in. I would only go like quarter of a position or anything. This is definitely a riskier setup to me than stuff like Palantir, Zoom, Peloton. I think that those stocks are going to be a lot safer over the next few years rather than Mara and Riot. But if we do see Bitcoin and some of those cryptos explode, then these stocks are going to explode as well. But I just think the others are safer.
Gotcha. All right. With the next question, we have LXR saying thoughts on SLM. So let's check it out. SLM. So let me pull it up real quick. All right. So they're doing pretty well actually. Over the past year, they've had basically a slow and steady increase. I mean, look at that, Tom. It's like a really nice chart actually. But yeah, it's nice and slow and steady. I see that they have a dividend. Their earnings look pretty decent. Their max weekly looks good. Over the past year, they've literally just exploded. I think they look good overall. I'm not sure if you're looking at this for like a long-term hold or like a day trade or what, but I think it's not bad for long-term hold. It pops so much. Like Tom, if you go to like a max weekly chart, this thing just went straight up from $7 all the way up to like 20. You see that?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, on the Max Weekly, it was even in like 2009 at like $2.50, and just crazy movement over the past few years, especially this year, like you said. So, if we go look at that daily chart, looks like there's going to be pretty good resistance at $20, and honestly, it's up so much. I would not be surprised at all if we saw a pullback on this, and it's just one of those things that worries me, almost like Home Depot or others. Like whenever you see them up so much, you just have to feel like they're going to start pulling back, and I have a bad feeling that SLM will be kind of like in that situation.
All right. And then we have Click saying, I know you don't like penny stocks. He doesn't either, but watch SNDL. So Sundial Growers, SNDL. They have quite the chart history, Tom. In the past year, they went from 13 cents all the way up to $4, and now they're back down to 71 cents. So they're definitely a big mover. They're extremely volatile, and who knows? We might see a pop back up, maybe to like $1 or so, depending on the news. This stock is like very news driven, so just be on the lookout for that. And I mean, it's not looking horrible right now. It has support right around like 60 cents, you can say, but I don't know. I'm just, it's very risky to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. And I really thought that like with Biden getting in and stuff like that, and Democrats holding the House and the Senate, I thought that it would be a pretty good thing for the marijuana stocks, but they've honestly all been pulling back. They had that initial pop up, but now they're all pulling back pretty hard, and I feel like it's just going to take a little bit of time, I guess, for that legislation to get through. But or if they even push the legislation through, we're just going to have to see what happens with the marijuana stocks, because I feel like that we would have heard something by now if they were going to do it, but there still is a lot of time, obviously.
All right. And then we have B saying, what are your thoughts on Coca-Cola? So KO, Tom, they're a nice, slow and steady stock. They're doing good today, not amazing, but they're also pretty close to their yearly highs, and their all-time highs are right around like $60 or so. The one thing I'm watching for is that rotation out of these value stocks and into growth stocks. It's just like it's something to watch out for given the movement we've seen over the past couple months. They're a pretty slow and steady stock. It's hard to bet against them. They've done well in like past recessions too. So I just like them for like the long term. They're a nice slow and steady stock.
Yeah, like we can see whenever COVID happened, they had a pretty big drop from 60 down to 37, but overall they're a pretty slow and steady stock. It was just COVID that made that happen. I think that if we look and see like if they can break above like $56, I think we'll see a pretty good move to the upside on this. It just depends though if we can break that. Like you said, I'm just kind of like waiting for that rotation to happen. So if that does happen, then this stock might have a double top around 55.50 or 55. So just watch out. I think it's going to be a pretty awesome thing to watch. But personally, intraday, I think it looks like a pretty good setup here. It's moving off the 100 SMA. Looks like it might keep going up and break that high of yesterday around like 55.10.
All right. And then we have Tony saying, what's going on with Palantir? So, Tom, I just checked in on this one, and it actually went red. So it could not break above that resistance right around like $20.30, you can say. A lot of sellers came in at those levels. It's not tanking. It's not rallying. So they are holding support right around like 1965, you can say. Tom, do you have any like support levels or anything to watch out for?
Intraday, I think that, like you said, 1965 is going to be a really good level. I have another support that's really nice at 19 and another one right around 1925. So if we start going down intraday, I would kind of watch for it to bounce off of some of these resistances right there. But honestly, I'm not sure I'd be bullish on it anymore today. With this, the way it pulled back, I'd be just neutral on it, especially if it stays below $20. I would just be neutral. I'm not sure I'd be bearish on it either because it might hold this support around like 1960. But overall, I think it was a pretty hot stock at open, and now it's just pulling back. Well, we're just gonna have to keep our eye on it and see how it moves off of that support down there around 1965 for the rest of the day.
All right, and then we have Piper saying play to call for Microsoft based on a big money play. 250 strike call for 618. What are your thoughts? So, thank you for sharing the strike price and expiration. Microsoft is coming down a little bit. I'm trying to see the pricing on these 250 strike calls. Let me just pull this up real quick. So yeah, I mean, they're about like $5 out of the money. They're pretty well priced. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty well priced. I don't know, Tom. I'm kind of neutral on this one. Like, Microsoft is coming down to a support right around like 245, and then it has resistance right around like 249. You could say 250. But yeah, I mean, they are trying to hold that support right around 245. I don't think it's a bad play at all. I just think it might take some time to play out, and I think time decay will be the biggest problem with this one. Microsoft rallied. It did great on Friday, but we're just seeing a lot of like tech stocks kind of pull back today, and that's definitely a little bit of a worry for me right now. I don't think it's a bad play. I just think it might take some time, and the biggest threat would be time decay.
I think so too. Time decay is going to be the big thing here. If we see like 3 or 4, like not even huge red days, but kind of like this, like little 1% drops or something, then I think that it's going to be a pretty hard thing for you to kind of recover back from that. So just be a little careful. I will say intraday, it's almost like an Apple setup. I think it fell below some technicals. It looks pretty bearish to me. If it does break 245, I might look at cutting that option. I don't know, Mike. Like, what do you think? You think if it breaks 245 support, you think maybe they should cut it?
I mean, it really depends on like where they would take profits, but I would give it a little bit of wiggle room. Honestly, that's what I know. I know, Tom, you like to cut things like that, and that can be great. Personally, I like to give it a little bit of wiggle room. It just depends on where you would take profits. But what I would really do is consider making the play a spread. It might be a little bit too late unless you go pretty far out of the money. But like I said, I think the biggest threat is going to be time decay, not even this movement. So to mitigate time decay, you can just like sell a further out of the money call to, have time decay work in your favor just a little bit. It's just an idea. Like I said, it's not a bad play. It's definitely a little risky at this point.
Yeah, and Microsoft might pop up. I mean, on the daily, it's been popping up off the 100 SMA. There's also pretty good support here, like around 237 that it hit off of a few times as well. So I think it could be a pretty decent play. Like you said, though, it's just going to be the question of if the timing is going to be good for you.
All right. And then with the next question, we have Darude saying, good morning, gents. What are your thoughts on both short-term and long-term for HYLN? So let's check it out. HYLN. I'm not a fan of them. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not a fan. That doesn't mean they're bad. It's just I'm not a fan of them, especially for the long term. For the short term, I do see that they have, earnings recently? Let's see. Yeah, they had earnings recently. Yeah, so it doesn't look like their earnings were too good. I mean, we might see a bounce back up, but honestly, it's not for me. I honestly, I don't like it at all. They have resistance right around $10 or so. And then after that, they have resistance right around like $11 and like 13 cents. And they have a support right around like $7 and like 60 cents, you can say.
I'm with you. It's a crazy stock, and I feel like that with the movement we're seeing, there's a few other ones that are just a little bit better opportunities. I have a feeling.
Alrighty, and then let's check in on the VIX, Tom. Apparently, we had the VIX popping up. So that means the SPY is probably popping down. Yep, SPY is getting pretty close to its low of day. This is not a good sign. We have the VIX popping up. UVXY is up around 7% today. We have DraftKings and Snap falling off, as Corbin pointed out. Enphase, Enphase falling off a little bit. So yeah, Seeing a little bit of selling pressure this morning. We have Corbin saying, what are your thoughts on BA? I'm looking at the $227.50 call for this week. So let's check it out. It's not bad. They're bouncing. They're falling with the market right now. I don't think it's bad at all, honestly. They have on the daily chart, they have support right around 220. What are your thoughts, Tom?
I think I agree. It's the main thing, like you said, is just if the overall market's down, Boeing's usually down. And I have a bad feeling that if the market pulls back, Boeing is one of those stocks that generally pulls back, I would say a little bit harder than some of the other stocks, especially given how they've went up. And they're pretty volatile and they move, like, for example, today, they've already moved 4 points because of their pricing. So it shows like that they just have a lot of volatility to them given their price. And it's just one of those stocks that I have a feeling like could be pretty volatile, especially over the next couple of days. But I think that those calls will be pretty good. I see a pretty good support around 220 to 219.
Tom, check out GME right now. It's popping up. It's at 166. AMC is kind of stagnant, but GME is popping up. They have a lot of momentum going into them. The meme stocks looks like they're back again, but we need GME to break above 170 and AMC to break above 1434. So be on the lookout. We're starting to see the hype come back. We have increased volume. I think things are going to get interesting pretty soon.
I think so too. It looks pretty interesting on both of them. AMC looks like it's coiling up. GME, like you said, looks into like an amazing runner. I think oh wow, they just popped up again with a huge move on the 1 minute candle. And this is just an amazing stock right here. If they keep moving like this, it's going to be awesome. I think people are just going to be jumping in left and right. If they can break above 170 today, it's going to be an amazing move. Man, this stock looks awesome off of these technicals as well. I don't even know what to say about this. Just let the short squeeze happen. Let the hedge funds kind of eat it and then just, drive that price up. Let's hope that this stock can keep going up. Looks like a pretty decent setup here on the daily chart as well. Moving pretty well back above this little trend line here on GME. AMC was in an awesome little like wedge formation here. So hopefully they can follow GameStop and start going up. And there goes AMC up as well, getting close to that 1434 resistance. Hopefully these stocks can keep going up because, man, it's going to trigger, I think, a lot of things to happen. And we might see another short squeeze. And AMC looks like that might be already happening.
Yeah, so guys, be careful no matter what. A lot of people got screwed over last time with AMC and GME and all the other hype stocks. Be careful. They're extremely risky plays. Only risk what you can afford to lose. But we have AMC breaking out right now. It's at the high of day. We're seeing increased volume on the 1 minute. It's really moving, Tom. I mean, it's a lot of buyers coming in at these levels. Broke the high from Friday. It's definitely moving up. GameStop, let's check in on them. Oh boy, GameStop is running right above 170.
Yeah, this is awesome, actually, man. I can't wait to see what happens over the next few days and also for the rest of today. I mean, it's going to be a pretty risky thing, like you said, though. Overall, I mean, any trade with like GameStop or AMC is going to be very risky. Looks like AMC is having a lot of problems getting above that 1438 level. I'd be very curious to see if we have a pullback here. Looks like we're seeing some red here on the 1 minute. So it looks like that momentum kind of cooled off, but could easily keep going up as we continue on today. But it looks like an amazing little setup here intraday. And I'd be very curious if we break 1438 now, I would use that now as the upper resistance, not 1434.
All right, yep, be very careful no matter what, guys. They are extremely risky plays. And then we have Matt saying, what is the support on Apple? So let's check it out. AAPL, let me pull it up. AAPL, it is lingering right at support at $125.60. I'm trying to see if there are any other major support levels. Let me pull up an hourly chart. On my chart, I have 125 as another support, and then below that, I have support right around like $124.25.
Yeah, I agree. All those levels are pretty decent. My favorite one is 125. Looks like we might actually bounce off of that today. There was a pretty good resistance there over the past few days. So if we go down, watch for 125 to possibly be the bottom. But man, Apple and Microsoft did continue down. I wonder if Microsoft did. I bet they did. Yeah, Microsoft continued down as well. And just one of those amazing things to see today. We don't always see Apple and Microsoft down, especially down like they are. It seems pretty significant, but overall the pullback is nice. They're below a lot of technicals today as well, especially the 1,000 SMA. So I think that with the movement we're seeing, even they could keep going down, but just watch for 125, like you said.
All right, and then we have Oliver saying DDS is one of the memes too. So DDS, they're up pretty big today, up around 14%. Their daily chart, they're just exploding. It looks like they're actually a pretty decent company though. It looks like they reported some good earnings on, what was that, a couple weeks ago. So overall, they're exploding up. They went from $100 all the way up to 144 in the past 2 days or 3 days, you can say. So they are exploding. Increased volume. Their short interest is like around 8%. So definitely be on the lookout for that. They are definitely running too. If they continue up over like the next couple days, I might even get some call credit spreads on these ones. It looks like some of these calls are up a crazy amount. These weekly calls are up, what is that? 500% today, 336% today, 2,930% today. So yeah, they're definitely popping up.
Yeah, Mike, where did this stock come from? I mean, I know Dillard's, it's a pretty good retail stock. I remember JC Penney's. I think it's pretty similar to that. Overall, I wonder what they really did to innovate, like some online sales or something. You can see that EPS get to 7.25 on their last earnings. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge beat. It's just one of those retail stocks. And man, at Lowe's, they were at like $22, $23 after COVID for a few months and just exploded up to 142. I mean, this is honestly an insane stock, especially out of a retail stock like Dillard's. And man, it makes me feel kind of bad because like if JC Penney's was still around, I wonder how much they could have exploded.
Let's check out M. So this is Macy's. I was looking at their chart earlier today. They're up around 4.5%. They have earnings pretty soon, but honestly, they've been doing pretty well over the past year too. They went from lows of around $5 or $4, you can say $4.50, all the way up to highs of $22, and they're holding their ground. It's not like they just popped up and tanked off. Like they are holding their ground, and they're holding that support right around like $18.
For sure. And it's just one of those things like we see these retail companies kind of starting to come back. And I think it has to do with just online sales growth and stuff. And obviously, them also innovating in online sales. It took a lot of these companies all the way up to COVID to start innovating on these online sales. Obviously, they had websites, but they weren't pushing them and they weren't doing ads and stuff like that. But I think now these companies are kind of, getting with the program a little bit.
Alrighty. And then we have LXR asking about Tilray. So they're popping up. They're up around 6% today. I think the daily chart looks pretty good for like a short-term trade. Are they bouncing off one of your levels right now?
Yeah, that's actually the 200 SMA. It's one of the better ones.
Awesome. So do you have any like projections on it? Anything you're watching?
Yeah, I mean, definitely watching it off of that. And it's also a good support right there, right around 1360. Let me go to this longer term 15-minute to see the exact bottom here. Looks like we're having a pretty good like triple bottom almost, or right around like 1370. You can maybe say 1380, somewhere right around there. But it looks like a pretty good consolidation play, like you said, over the next couple of days. And this stock could easily keep going down, but I have a good feeling off this SMA and off of these supports, it might start to go up. And especially if we see like some good marijuana news come out or something like that, it'll also help. And I think the stocks like CGC and others might be a little bit safer than Tilray, but I think Tilray could be good for a short-term play. And I think it'll yield a pretty good return, especially on those options.
Alrighty, and then we have Corbin saying, good thing I don't have buying power because I was thinking about scalping AMC. So let's check in on these meme stocks, Tom. AMC sitting right around $14.18. They're lingering right around that they're lingering around that intraday high. They're not breaking it right now, but they're holding their level. And then Corbin also said, I am holding. Maybe Powell will move the market. Yeah, I mean, seems like he always does. Sometimes to the upside, sometimes to the downside. But good stuff there. Tom, what do you think about Disney right now? They're kind of selling off of earnings the other day. Their all-time high is right around 203, and right now they're at 170. In the past week, they fell from like 184 all the way down to 170.
I was honestly really surprised to see this one happening. And, I think that this company's awesome. They have Disney Plus, they have their parks, which are starting to really reopen, especially The California one was actually just allowed to start to reopen just a month or two ago. And I think that it's going to be a pretty good stock for the longer term, but shorter term, just be pretty careful. It looks pretty bearish right now, honestly. It's down below the 100 SMA. There is a decent support here around like 167, 168, but I think that it just looks bearish, like I said. So if it keeps going down, I think it's going to prove to be a great, fantastic opportunity to grab some shares on this company, especially with the streaming service, with their parks, everything like that. And they have a really good market. Like they have a lot of branding rights to a lot of their movies and stuff. People cannot get those. And it's just a very good thing that they've honestly made as a company. So for the longer run, I think that they're amazing, but short term, it looks very bearish. I'm a little bit worried, you know. I'm surprised to see those earnings that bad.
Yeah, well, their earnings weren't even that bad though. Is the thing. Like they're just kind of selling off. Like their EPS wasn't too
Yeah,
bad.
they
You
almost
know.
doubled their EPS on the
Yeah.
estimate, actually.
Yeah, so the earnings weren't too bad. And then we have Corbin saying, what are your thoughts on OSTK? So Overstock, they are up around 1% today, and they're getting closer intraday high. I actually like this setup, and I'm glad you brought it up. They are making higher lows. They have resistance right around $80. Support right around, you can say like 66. Overall, I actually do like this setup, and I'm glad he pointed it out.
Yeah, I think so too. It looks very good. Upper resistance around 72.25. I think it looks like an amazing stock. You know, they've been going down over the past year pretty significantly. If we look at that max weekly, it looks pretty volatile, but the max daily looks a little bit better. I just if they keep going down though, just obviously you just don't go against the market, but I have a good feeling they might start to pop back up.
Alrighty, and let's check back in on the SPY. Let's see how we're doing. The SPY is down around 0.5%. We are bouncing off of support right now at like you can say like $414, but it's looking a little rough. We still have the VIX pretty elevated. The VXX is up around 4.5% today. We have the UVXY up around 7%, and then we have the VIX index up around 12% today. So definitely we have some elevated volatility, elevated expectations. Yeah, so just be aware of that. The SPY is pretty close to support, right around 414. Be on the lookout for that. Tom, are you watching any like big stocks today? Any notable movement or anything you're watching for today?
Man, I mean, I've really been trying to watch these cruise lines like CCL, NCLH, ones like that. And if we go like look at their daily charts, even like AAL, for example, some of these airlines even they might start to recover back up. And like we're seeing AAL move pretty well off of this trend line. We go look at like CCL, it's moving well off the 100 SMA, might start to pop back up. And I have a feeling that just as the summer goes on, and especially like in Florida specifically, like I know that they had a lawsuit to try to get these cruise lines back functioning again. And just keep in mind that there might be some news come out sometime this summer. And whenever the news drops that these cruise lines are allowed to depart again and they're allowed to finally make money, they're gonna I think explode. And it's just gonna be one of those things where you're gonna have to, I think, hold the stock whenever that catalyst happens. So I think that, you know, averaging into some of these shares could be an amazing thing right now, especially with the little bit of pullback that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. You know, if they keep going down, they could go to lows of $12. So just be a little careful because that's like almost a 70% drop or something like that. But it's just one of those situations where if that news comes out, it'll be a pretty good recovery out of these stocks. But at the same time, you know, there could be some other news come out where COVID gets more rampant or another strain came out or something that could send it back down. So just be careful, and it could go either way. But I have a feeling that as these cruise lines start to actually get operating again, they're going to really explode, and it's going to be something like off of a big catalyst, like the news, like I said.
All right, and then we have ABC saying GLD is looking good, and it is. So let's check out GLD. It is up around 0.8% today. They are trending up pretty well over the past couple months. SLV is up around 1% today. I'm glad you pointed this out. I think it looks pretty solid, actually. I think it looks pretty solid for like maybe like a couple month hold. It's always good to like my thing with GLD is I don't love to trade it too much for the short term because it has a ton of gaps in the chart. Like one day it'll have like an awesome green day, and then the next day it'll like open up and then fall down 2%, and then the next day it'll gap up and run up. So overall, I like it for like a couple month hold. SLV looks really solid too. And GLD is actually right at its high a day right now. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to hold this one overnight, like you said. And I think it could pose a pretty good intraday trade, maybe. But I think above 70, 174.14 today would be a pretty good move. It's moving above that. Looks like it's really rocketing up intraday, like you said. And I really like the daily chart on gold and silver. I think it also shows that there's some more fear coming into the market. Like during COVID and stuff, we kind of saw gold starting to pop back up. And I think that like if we start to see gold and silver start to pop back up and inflation start to go up, it's just showing that there's a little bit of fear in the market, I think.
All right, and then we have Vicky and Oliver saying STX. So we have Oliver saying STX might have momentum potential. So for Vicky and Oliver, STX is up around 3% today. They are really popping, Tom. In the past 3 days, they went from 85 all the way up to 101.24. And like Oliver said, it looks like it might have some momentum potential for like maybe like a quick day trade. Overall, their chart looks great. They're actually at all-time highs right now. So, I mean, I think they look really solid. What do you think?
Yeah, this is actually an amazing tech stock. This company makes they make a ton of hard drives, solid state drives, stuff with chips in them, stuff like that. So obviously I think they're getting helped out with the chip shortage going on. And wow, I cannot believe how much that they've really exploded. And they do stuff like with memory stuff where, they'll make like a solid state with like 500 gigabytes and stuff like that. But man, these are an amazing setup on the chart. I mean, if they can keep running intraday, it could pose a pretty good play. It looks very, very solid, actually. Just about to keep running. Yeah, at 101.35 right now, it's actually breaking out. We'll just have to see how it keeps moving because, man, this daily chart is honestly insane, Mike. Like, a lot of these other semiconductor stocks, like Qualcomm, AMD, and others, they have not moved near as well as that one has.
I was actually looking at SMH. This is an ETF of like semiconductor stocks, and I think that they're at a decent level. I don't think that they're at an amazing level, but I think they're at a decent level. Just with how all of these stocks like this have been moving. But STX is just exploding up, and they're actually very close to their intraday high. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you, Vicky and Oliver, for pointing that out. We have Corbin saying he's up 100% on his GLDs. So that's awesome. And Tom, we got to check back in with AMC. It's pulling back a little bit, sitting right around 1390. Looks like this resistance is really tough. It really tried to break. I know it broke its high on Friday, got rejected very hard. Tried to break again today. It's getting rejected really hard. So overall, it's still on my radar because it's not necessarily falling. Like we have a lot of buyers coming in at 1380. Like if you look intraday, you could see a lot of buyers are on this 1380 area, but obviously there's a ton of sellers that come in at 1438. So be on the lookout for that. It's kind of like I don't know like how to describe it. Like it's kind of like a standoff right now between the buyers and sellers.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't know what to think about it. Like we said, it's kind of just new. I would just almost be more neutral on it. It's almost like in that little standoff ground, middle of the range for the day. And I don't know what to say. It's one of those things where I want to see the squeeze happen. So if it breaks back above 1438, we might start to see the squeeze. So really just watch out. I think I'm actually gonna throw a little bit of an alert here really quick, create alert market at or above 1439 and then create that. So if we move back above that, I'll get a nice little alert here that we moved above. But overall, I mean, this stock's going to be pretty hot. I think it just depends if we can break out or not. And like you said, it's just unfortunately that's posing as a pretty good resistance intraday. And I thought once we broke the high of Friday, it would start to run, but there was just so much momentum that it just broke by a few cents and came right back.
Yeah, so we have a pretty big pop out of the SPY, actually, like Darude suggested. We had a pretty big pop. Apple's popping up a little bit, so yeah, just be on the lookout for that. How are Riot and Mara doing? So they're holding their ground. They're still down pretty big on the day. Riot's down around 11%, which is pretty big. It has support right around $222.50. So be on the lookout for that. But guys, let us know what stocks you're watching. Tom and I will cover them. Let us know what stocks you are, looking at maybe for long-term holds or short-term day trades or swings or whatever. Let us know what stocks you're watching. And yeah, let us know. We have M popping up, Tom, at the intraday high of day. It's up over 5% today, and it's definitely running.
Yeah, Macy's, like we just talked about, really starting to go. Some of these retail stocks are just doing so well. I cannot believe the days that some of them are having, and Macy's is up 5%. So just an amazing thing to see out of this. And on the daily chart, looks very decent, bounced off some solid supports and is really starting to come up. And if we go look at like the max weekly on a stock like Macy's, there's honestly a lot of room still back to the upside. And I'm not saying Macy's is going to fly back up to $73 over the next couple of years, but I think that they could start to really start to pop.
Gotcha. So, like, what resistance levels are you looking out for? Because, like, the way I look at Macy's, like, and this is just me, everyone will have their own opinion, but I would just never buy them. I feel like there's so many better opportunities. Like, what levels are you watching? Like, what are your thoughts on it overall?
Personally, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. If anything, I would just buy off support. Like if it came down to like 15.57, that would be the only time, that I would get it. Cause personally, I'm with you. Some of these stocks like Macy's, they're just not, I just don't think that they're near as well as as some stocks like Amazon or Walmart or some of those. And Macy's used to be like one of those safer type of value stocks before those retail stocks really started getting crushed. And it's just a bad thing to see out of it. So for the long run, personally, I don't like it too much. I know that they've been benefiting from online sales and stuff, but it's just they're way behind the game. You can see over the past few years that they've went from 73 all the way down to 10. And this was before COVID was going on. COVID was just the nail in the coffin for them, it looked like. But at the same time, they were just in a pretty bearish setup overall. And a lot of retail stocks were, and we saw some go out of business, like JC Penney's. And I just think that for the longer run, Macy's is not the best one. Like you said, what are some of your favorite other ones though? I know Peloton, Zoom is one of your favorites. And honestly, some of those stocks are really good for the longer run, DraftKings even. And I just think that those are way better opportunities, especially for growth amounts and even for safety, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a huge fan of Zoom, like you said, DraftKings, Redfin, NIO, Enphase, Palantir. Those are some of my favorites. Peloton's not bad. But yeah, I feel like even like for growth potential, but then also two for safety. Like I feel like Macy's is honestly, I feel like it's kind of a coin flip with just the way they've been moving. So I don't know. I'm just gonna stay away from them. Then we have Click saying SNDL popping up. So let's check it out. SNDL is popping up. It's up around 5% today. What's like the next resistance on this one?
Yeah, I'm trying to find that. Let's go to this 15-minute chart really quick. Go back a little bit further. Let's see. It looks like 75 cents is going to be a pretty good. That honestly is going to be pretty good resistance. So watch out for 75 cents. If we break that, then I think 80 cents is the next one. I do have 1,000 SMA up here at the 80-cent level. So I have a feeling that might pose as a good resistance over the next like few days, maybe not today, but let's just see like how it moves today, because it is kind of like, it almost looks like it's at that double top, kind of like right around like 75 cents. So that's like right at resistance. I would just make it break that before we do anything with this one today. And it is up quite a bit. Like you said, moving from 70 cents all the way up to around 75 cents, which is honestly, pretty good out of something like SNDL. But hopefully SNDL can kind of bounce off these SMAs and stuff on the daily chart and hold support and go back up. Because honestly, if it does, I think all the other marijuana stocks will, like CGC, Tilray, and others. And I just think that some of these stocks are going to start to go up and maybe be a pretty good sector to trade over the next few weeks.
All right, we have Palantir creeping up, Tom. It's breaking its high a day. Intraday, it looks pretty good. Has resistance right around $20.44. It's definitely running up. Increased volume, definitely has potential. So be on the lookout for that. Then we have Samuel saying thoughts on SOXL. SOXL is down around 5% today. So let's check them out. So if we look at their daily, they have support right around like $30 or so. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, intraday, it looks pretty bearish to me. It looks like it's having trouble breaking the 100 SMA, as well as like a little resistance there around like $30.50, maybe 30.60. Looks like it's having a lot of problems right here. Personally, I have a feeling it might keep going to the downside. It is a 3X bull ETF, and I don't know exactly what this one is following.
Semiconductors.
Which one? Semiconductors?
Yep.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So it's a 3x bull and it is starting to come down a little bit today. So that's a pretty bad thing to see. And obviously this thing being 3x leverage or having 3 times the leverage is going to be a pretty insane thing. Like we're seeing, it's moving 4.5% today. I'm sure that some of these semiconductor stocks like AMD aren't down 5%. Yeah, you can see they're up 0.28%. Nvidia, negative 1.31%. I'm sure that's posing a pretty good that's a pretty good reason why that's down as well. But overall, with it being 3x leverage, Mike, I know that stuff can cause a lot of problems. And obviously, if anything, I might play a continuation play with it to the downside, but we'll just have to see because man, that leverage on there really makes it very volatile.
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to SMH, that ETF. I just don't like how it's leveraged. Like, this thing might explode, but at the same time, like, those leveraged ETFs, they kind of decay a little bit like options, so they can be a home run or they can be a dud. So it's kind of it's just a riskier way to play it's just a riskier way to play the semiconductor industry. As always, always trust your gut. But then we have Vicky saying clothing sales jumped 700% in April, according to Market Watch. So that is crazy. Yeah, I mean, that might explain why we're seeing DDS and Macy's explode.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, clothing sales popping like that's going to be awesome for those stocks. And I wonder if it has something to do with summer or something like that, people trying to get new clothes. But overall, it's just insane. And, I heard that sometimes like these retail stocks like Macy's and others, like obviously they're going to benefit from news like that, but sometimes the seasons might affect them. Like for example, summer people might buy more clothes or something like that. So hopefully like this can continue up because if it does, like it might send like Macy's and Dillard's from really far up. I mean, Dillard's is really exploding, but Macy's has like some good resistance coming up around $20 and then like $21. And if we see this continued movement and these great sales, they might keep going higher.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for joining the stream. Tom, do you have any last minute like stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Man, I mean, I'm still trying to really watch some of these semiconductors like AMD and others. They're right at support, even like Peloton and some of them. But I think that AMD specifically being like right around support, it's just been consolidating for like 4 or 5 days, and it's got to move big one way or the other. And we're seeing some of those semiconductor ETFs down quite a lot today. I'm a little scared we might start to go down with all the chip shortage stuff going on, but hopefully AMD can hold because it's an amazing stock for the longer run. If it holds this and starts to go up, might be a good time to grab shares or grab some quick calls. But overall, it's been consolidating, like I said, right around that 74 support. So just watch out for it. I think it will move over the next few days. I feel like I've said AMD quite a bit, but it just stayed right at support. And we can see, it stayed here back in September and October of last year for quite a, like let's just say a little like let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for around 7 trading days, and then started to go back up. So we're getting close. We've been here for around 4 or 5 days, so maybe a couple more days, and then we'll finally pick a direction.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining the stream. I know we weren't live for the past week. I had to take care of some personal things, but thank you guys so much for joining the stream and asking great questions. Tom and I had a great time, and we hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day.